everybody. Okay, today we're going to be making curried chickpea cakes, and this is from my cookbook, The Ultimate Everyday Cookbook. So you'll find it on page 191. It's so easy to make, and it's really, really, really delicious. So I've got a food processor here. You can use a blender too if you've got a good one. And I have a can of drained garbanzo beans, or chickpeas, and I rinsed them too. So it's so simple. I'm just going to put a couple things in the food processor, mix it all together, and we're going to cook it. So I've got some green onions here. They're about this long. I've cut off most of the green part because I like the whiter parts and the light green parts better. So we're going to have about 1/3 of a cup. Okay. So they don't have to be perfectly cut because we're going to put them in the food processor anyway. And they're going to chop them all to bits. So I think I need a few more. Doesn't have to be exact, but the onions are going to make them have a great flavor. And if I start crying during this cooking session, I apologize, but the green onions are killing me already. I'm so sensitive. Okay, yeah, those are strong. Ooh! So I'm putting 1/3 of a cup of the green onions in with the chickpeas. Let's try to get the green onions away so I don't cry anymore. Woo, those are strong. Okay, so let's close this up. We're gonna have to make some noise here for a second. I'm just gonna give it a little stir so that way we can get everything together. Having a food processor is the greatest thing. If you are going to invest in any kitchen product, I recommend that you get a food processor. Oh, they're so great. Alright, this looks good. So now we're going to put them in a bowl because we're going to add the rest of our ingredients in here. The reason I'm not going to add everything in the food processor is because I'm adding some rice, and I just don't want the rice to get too mushy and ground up, and it's just not the way we want them. So we're going to put everything in the bowl and then just stir it up. Okay. So I'm going to add my seasonings. So I've got curry powder, cumin, and nutmeg. So I'm going to do about 1/2 teaspoon of the curry and the cumin. It smells so good. You can do more if you want. I just don't want to make it too strong because I'm feeding this to my family tonight. My 7-year-old will eat just about anything, but if I make it too much curry, he won't. So do about 1/2 teaspoon of the cumin. And the nutmeg, I just want to add it goes well with the cumin and the curry. I'm going to add just 1/4 teaspoon. Just to give it a little something, something. Okay, now I also want to do 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Maybe, I'm going to do 1/2 teaspoon actually. Just because I think I read the recipe wrong. Huh. Okay, and I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of evaporated cane juice crystals too. Sweeten this bad boy up a little bit. It's going to mix well with the spices. So give this a little stir. Mix all the seasonings in there. We're going to have to get down and dirty and use our hands in a few minutes too to make the patties. Okay, now we're going to add breadcrumbs. So I have just traditional, they're the really fine breadcrumbs. I'm going to do 2/3 of a cup of breadcrumbs. Stir this in here. Now you notice that we're not using any eggs, of course, to bind it together, but when you have the garbanzo beans And it made a really nice texture when we put it in the food processor. So, and then of course we've got the breadcrumbs that I just sent flying all over the counter. And then we're going to be using some coconut milk. So it's going to bind together really well. You don't need the egg for that. Now, I have rice. So it's cooked rice. You can use brown rice. I've used jasmine rice here. You can use whatever you want. So I have 2/3 of a cup of rice. This is going to help bind it all together and just add more texture and volume and yumminess. So now I'm going to add the coconut milk. So I've got a third of a cup, of coconut milk. And I'm using this Thai Kitchen light coconut milk. It's got a lot less, fat and calories. It's totally up to you, whatever you feel like using. I love coconut milk. I think it's great, and I don't think you should be afraid of the fat that's in there, because this is a good fat that we need. So use whatever you like. See, and they're coming together perfectly. They're going to make great patties. We're going to need a little bit more of the breadcrumbs, because after we make the patties, we're going to put them in the breadcrumb one more time and just to coat it, and then we're going to cook it in the pan. Okay, so we've got our batter. So, the patties. I'm going to make them, again, this is really for however big you want them. I'm going to make them just medium size. I'm telling you, these are going to go quickly too. You put these in front of people and watch out. They're going to be gone soon. So while I'm making these, there's two things that I wanted to mention. First thing is that, wait, can you see my apron? It's a little anthropology number here. I had a comment from my friend who said, "Why aren't you wearing aprons? Aprons are cute. You need to be wearing aprons." So I said, okay, I'll wear aprons. Sometimes I wear aprons, sometimes I don't. But I thought it was cute, and I thought I'd be a little messier from this concoction, so I wore it. The other thing, I got comments from my husband that our kitchen isn't that nice. And no, it really isn't that pretty. But here's the thing, is that I don't have a gourmet kitchen. The skinny bitch has a normal, average, everyday kitchen, but I wish it was bigger. But we're renting, and this is the kitchen that the house came with. So maybe it's not glorious and huge, but it'll do. So excuse the fact that it's not a beautiful Barefoot Contessa or Giada kitchen. It's just mine. All right, we're doing great. So it looks like we're going to have about 8 or 9 from the size that I'm making. Yeah, that's perfect. You can get 10 out of there, but I think, I don't know, 9 just seems to be the magical number. All right. So, okay, so here we are at the stove. I've got the curried chickpea cakes here. I've coated the whole bottom of the pan with oil, grapeseed oil, and it's at about a medium heat. Now I've got a little plate here of breadcrumbs, and I'm just going to dip it in, coat the outside of it, put them in the pan. Do the next one. It's just going to bind everything together. So who needs eggs to make these little curried chickpea cakes anyway? We don't. All right, looking good. So like I said, I have about 10 of them, or 9 of them, sorry. Well, the recipe calls for 10. Technically I have 9. think I made them smaller for the recipe, but it's okay. Whatever number you get. 9 is good too. Okay. So you're going to want to do a couple minutes on each side. I mean, everything is already cooked, but you want to make sure that it's warm, it's a little crispy on the outside. Get a spatula to turn them. You can hear everything starting to heat up nicely. And I'll get a close-up for you. Okay, so we've made the curry chickpea cakes. Here they are. Look at them. They look fabulous. I'm just going to hold the whole plate of them and start eating now. So let's try. You're going to love them. They're so good. And look, I mean, they keep their shape perfectly. They're great. I cooked them for a couple minutes on each side. They're nice and have some crispiness on the outside from the breadcrumbs. They're so like moist and soft on the inside. I need more. Everything is just perfectly seasoned. So good. Okay, thanks so much for cooking with me today. I've got the rest cooking. I think I might pass it out to my neighbors too. So until next time, we'll get cooking together.